you're going to want to pay extremely close attention. The rules are changing, and if you don't know this information, you're more likely to be on the losing side than the winning side. I'm really excited about this. I'm rich. Dean Graziosi, Michael Sane, Katrina Ruth, Ryan Dice, the one and only Russell Brunson, Sonia Riccotti. We have Molly here, Todd Brown, Roland Fraser, Mike Dillard, Jeff Walker, Neil Patel, Dennis Hughes. I'm rich. And I think that there's a high risk of mass extinction of internet businesses.
Millions of businesses, big and small, closed, pushing us into the worst global recession in history.
The writing is on the wall because things are changing, things are happening.
Change in the industry that's forcing people to evolve and adapt or basically die.
You need to see this to understand it.
Something like that will happen. You can write it in blood.
If there was a tactic or strategy that you were most excited about, what would it be?
We can go as deep as you want.
I call this content sprouting.
These strategies work for any social media platform.
If you believe it's a good idea, you should stick with that.
When your business becomes part of someone's identity, that's when they stick. This is really crazy. I don't know if I ever shared this with you. Waste the least amount of money to find that winner. That's how you win for $1 a day.
Now, I have people that are on my list for 2 years that are still opening the emails.
To get this many amazing people in a room, just amazing.
We're about to take you behind the scenes.
I love what you're doing here. This is amazing.
If you want to know what's happening in the future, tune in now.
Hello. I want to make sure that this is working. I don't know if it is. Let's take a look. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Let's see here. I think right now we're on the, let's see. Test. Cool. And let's see what it looks like. So, okay, cool. Let me know if you guys can hear me. I have this mic here, loud and clear. Awesome. Ah, crap. I just messed up my connection. Let's see if I can just fix this one last time so that I have both wireless and wired. I'm sitting here in my backyard. Geez. Figured I'd do this one from outside today. Why not, right? Cool. All righty. Awesome. Let me zoom in a little here. And so today's just going to be an Ask Me Anything thing. My name is Rich Sheffer, and I do these live streams every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm planning on pre-recording Tuesdays, and should be a really good one. I'm going to do it with Kim Walsh-Phillips, and she's got a lot of really cool stuff going on. And I think it's going to be a really good one, and I'm taping it on Saturday. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. But I figured I would do this outside. I thought it would be fun. And since it's an Ask Me Anything kind of thing, obviously your participation is very much needed. So if you're watching on YouTube, please ask me questions. I would be glad to answer them. People pay a lot of money to get me to answer their questions. I'm offering it to you for free. So please smash the like button, subscribe. And ask questions. And the more comments you make, the more YouTube believes that this is a video that should be shared. And if you share it, please put #shared in the comments so that I can thank you personally. In addition to that, if you're watching on Facebook, please also emote, comment, ask questions, join our free group, our free Facebook group, Strategic Profits. And if you're watching on LinkedIn, please connect with us. If you're watching on Periscope, it's time to upgrade to different platforms. And that's about it. But I'm probably going to be wiping my face a lot. It's hot outside here in Florida. And so I have lots of lights on me right now so that this way, as it gets darker, we don't have a problem. Let me zoom in a little bit here so that, I can't really zoom in that much. But if you want to see the rest of the house, like, no, there you go. You can see, oh, I want to put those flames on, but not right now. Cool. So that's probably a little bit much. That's probably not enough. Let's do that. Cool. So let's say hello to everyone, and let's just dive right in and answer some questions. And, you know, we've got some really amazing stuff going on at Strategic Profits. And in fact, I have the whole team flying down here this on Monday. And then this whole week, we've got major strategy sessions for a bunch of big stuff that we have coming up. A lot of the stuff that I've been telling you about for probably the last year is finally coming to fruition. So it's very exciting. Hey, Daryl, good to see you. Hey, Martin, good to see you. Hey, Joanne in the UK, good to see you. Dr. Vogelman in Coronado Island in San Diego, good to see you. Renzo, he can hear me. Dina Colada, long time no speak. Good to see you. Loud and clear, cool. You can hear me, good. I know I'm jumping around at 5x5. I don't know what 5x5 means. What does 5x5 mean, DR, on YouTube? Test, all good, awesome. Yeah, need to stay connected. That is for sure. And if it gets choppy at any moment, let me know. Love the new background. Yeah, thanks, man. Nice at the pool. Yeah, at some point I would love to have more of a setup here. Like, you can't believe like the amount of lights I have on me right now. Well, maybe you can based on how bright I seem. But you know how it is. Nice digs. Thanks. Hey, Rich, how are you? Hey, Hugo. I hope you're doing well, my friend. Good to see you. I have a doozy. Oh, you have a doozy of a question? I am excited about that then. So sad that I couldn't attend the Mimosa Mastermind. Do you know how often Amber has it? I think it is annual. I don't know that I'll be at each one. I might be at the next one. I don't know. I guess it all depends on how good of a job I do. But you know, I got to say that I've just recently met Amber. I'm so blown away at like the value she provides to people, the amount of work that she does behind the scenes to kind of like get people the experience that they most want. I've never seen anyone work harder, in fact. And I also think that she's a true giver. And, you know, I find that when I come in contact with true givers, there are not very many of them. They're the best people to invest in, to give, because one, they're not used to it. And two, they will always reciprocate. Wow, reciprocate. So, yeah, I think it's annual, though, Martin. Hey, Rich, can you please share with us your two biggest failures and what are the most valuable lessons that you learned from them? Well, certainly, I'd say that the biggest failure I ever had was when 9/11 happened and my hypnosis centers were on track to do $13.5 million in 2001. Fun little trivia fact. I was the last person ever to get married on top of the World Trade Center on Valentine's Day because my ex-wife and I won a contest where we won getting married at the top of the World Trade Center, like the very top, not windows on the world, but the top, and on Valentine's Day in 2001. So anyway, I had no idea that when the towers fell, how much my life would be impacted. And I just actually, one of the YouTube shows that I like a lot is Mr. Ballo, which is like missing people, murders, stuff like that. And he did one on 9/11, and I just watched it last night. And I was watching it and I was thinking about, wow, like I was in Hawaii when 9/11 happened. In fact, I was at Tony Robbins' event in 2001. And this is before I came to certain conclusions about Tony. And anyway, so I was at a Tony Robbins event, and that when 9/11 happened, so we were stuck in Hawaii for an extra week or so. And I had no idea like how dramatic it would be like to my own life personally. And so we lost our phone lines for the hypnosis centers. So that was a problem for about a month and a half. Then after that, our advertising was front page, like, you know, not the front page, but the first couple of pages of the Daily News. But the Daily News wasn't taking any advertising like for the first 50 pages during, what was going on. So we couldn't advertise. We had no phones. And I thought that like that setback wouldn't be terminal for us. But it was. And I had, up until that point, been successful at everything I had done, from the clothing, music, hypnosis, like, all of these different areas. All I had ever had was success. So, it sounds crazy to think this, but I did at that time, that like that there was nothing that I couldn't like turn around, be successful with, etc. I was wrong. And I spent a lot of really good money chasing bad money, right? All the money I had made in fashion and music and in hypnosis, a lot of it I gave back, most of it. Then I got screwed over in deals too. So that's why I had a lot of rage, and I had to go see a psychologist to kind of get rid of that, which is like where that ADD story comes from. But I would say that that was the first kind of big lesson that I had. And it's served me many times since then. Because nowadays I truly believe that nothing good ever lasts, nothing bad ever lasts. And so when I've been advising clients and they're like got like crazy momentum, like I'm always making sure that they realize like that it won't last forever. Like, let's make sure that there's a plan B. Let's make sure that there's fail safes and stuff like that. So I'd say that that was one of the biggest failures. I'd say the other one wasn't really a failure. But I learned a lot from it. And that was, it was when the syndicate was formed. So when the syndicate was formed, I was a lot of the people that were in the syndicate. And for those that know what this is, great. If you don't know, I don't feel like recapping the whole story, but I coached a lot of people that were in the syndicate. I was the biggest affiliate for a lot of people in the syndicate. And then they formed the syndicate, and that had me really worried that I couldn't count on a lot of my business friends for future support, because they had formed a clique and they were a calendar that they shared, that they were constantly promoting each other's stuff. That's why I was really motivated, in addition to not wanting to write another report, to develop the automated webinars. And so that's what we did. And I guess the rest is history. And then when other people in the syndicate had challenges because of merchant accounts and stuff like that, the model that they were following led to some kind of self-destruction. Kern, Phil Sane, Brunson all switched to the webinar model that I had developed, and I gave them all. Kern, I just gave the report, but the other guys I gave like the software and everything. And so while that was not necessarily a failure, it was a big lesson. And the lesson is that like a couple of things. One, that I could not have all my friends be business friends, because like that was a really tough time for me, because like all these guys I thought were my closest friends, and I still think of them as close friends, but they're not my only friends. And it was really important for me to get some friendships outside of business, so that like when stuff like this happened, like I could have like some outlet to get advice and talk to people, because I couldn't talk to these guys because they were all one thing. The other is to not hold grudges. That, like I said, like I helped Mike Filsane, I helped Russell Brunson, like they were all in the syndicate. And I'm really happy I did that. Like I didn't hold the grudge, because, to this day, I'm close friends with Russell, and I'm close friends with Filsane, and I'm close friends with Walker, and I'm close friends with all these guys. But, so, it's my belief, right, that it's hard to judge anyone else. You never know why someone does what they do. Most times people are doing what they believe is in their best interest, and you can never really blame someone for that, especially if they're not screwing anyone over. And no one owed me anything. I just, I was their biggest affiliate and I was their friend, but, they didn't owe me anything. And so, yeah, I'd say that was a lesson. Like, what are some other big failures? I feel kind of like funny that I don't have like a list of failures, but it's kind of like that old story, right? Of the old man that like lives in this town, like, 1,000 years ago or whatever, and has a son who helps him on the farm. And one day, the 3 like wild horses come to the farm that they own, and they keep them. And everyone in the village tells them how lucky they are. They must be blessed by God. What a great thing that you got these 3 horses. And a week later, while the son is trying to tame one of these wild horses, he breaks his arm and now cannot help with the farming and has to leave the old man to do most of the heavy lifting of the farm. And everyone is saying, oh, what horrible luck you have, right? What a bad thing. And the old man says, we'll see, right? A couple weeks later, the king's army comes and takes every able-bodied young man for a war that is most certain to not be productive, and a lot of people are going to die. And the son can't go because he has a broken arm, and everyone says to the old man how lucky he is that his son's broken arm, and says, we'll see. And, each of those things are both good news and bad news, depending on what happens next. And so I'd say, have I had lots of setbacks in life? Of course, I think everyone has. But more often, it doesn't become a failure unless you don't pivot. And I think in most of the things that I've done, I've pivoted. I mean, would I say that the selling my business to Agora and then buying it back, was that a failure? It could have been, had I left my business in Agora, but I pivoted. So yeah, most of the time I'm pretty, since that big first one, which was life altering, I would say that. Now, I would also say that there have been lots of failures, but not failures that I really tasted, because it was a failure of exploiting an opportunity. Right. So one of the things that does bother me a lot about strategic profits, and it's really my flaw. I can't blame anyone. I can't it falls completely on my shoulders. Todd Brown used to work at Strategic Profits. Justin Brook used to work at Strategic Profits. And before either one of them ever worked at Strategic Profits, I was very much aware that the best way to build a business is off a personal brand, because it's the easiest. But then if you want that business to be scalable, if you want that business to ultimately grow beyond you, if you want that business to be sellable and it's based on personality, you need more than one personality. You need a multi-personality business. And so we should really have a business that has lots of gurus. And I had people who worked for me who became, nowadays, I go to Todd for funnel advice, right? And if I have a traffic question, I would go to Justin. So they're, I see them on equal footing as me now. And I feel had I made the right moves at the right time, I'm not even sure what they would be, but that they both could have been gurus of Strategic Profits. And then my company would have been bigger, more successful, and also less reliant on me. So that was a failure. But it's not a failure I tasted, because it's a failure of exploiting an opportunity that I should have exploited. And I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I would say that there have been a lot more failures for me in that regard. Not failures where something bad happened to me, but that something really good could have happened and I didn't capitalize on it. And that, I would say, are the things that haunt me, right? The things that it's the same thing now with Steal Our Winners, right? It has all the things that you don't see yet that I'm seeing on a daily basis as we work on everything that will be more revealed to the public, in December. Nowadays, my biggest fear is that I don't do something that I should do, because I see so much potential in it. I know that this thing can be so big, so successful, so whatever. And I don't want to mess it up. Right. So I've never had that before. Everything, I felt like I was the magic that I was injecting into the thing that I was selling. This is the first time I look at the thing and I'm holy crap. I hope I am good enough to have the potential be realized, if that makes sense. So I hope that answers your question, Amit. If it does, thanks for asking it. If it doesn't, ask me a follow-up. I'd be glad to answer more. Hey, Rich, the empathy connection is thrown around a lot for marketing and ads. Can you share what it means to you and how you would use it in a hook or lead? So I'm not sure if that, Hugo, is a let me just look up what, if you're talking about empathy in general, or if there's something called the empathy connection that I just don't even know. So I'm looking it up right now just to make sure, because certainly have a lot to say about empathy. So the empathy connection from the Humane Society, is that what you're talking about? Creating caring communities through human-animal no, that can't be it. All right, so maybe you're just talking about empathy in general. And if you are, then I certainly can talk about that. And if I have that wrong, Hugo, by all means, let me know. But like, empathy is what allows someone a prospect to go from something being possible to something being probable. So, for example, this was the story I always told, and I think I have to change this story, especially because of the potential I see in Steal Our Winners. But so let me backtrack a little bit. One of the reasons why my reports went as viral as they did, and one of the reasons why my reports were so successful, my free ones, was that a lot of people who read it felt like I was looking over their shoulder. They told me this, right? Like, that would be one of the most common pieces of feedback I would hear, is that people would tell me, wow, like, as I read your report, I got a mosquito bite. As I read your report, I felt like you were standing over my shoulder. And so I think that when someone feels understood, right, the likelihood of them coming up with the objection that this does not apply to me, which is the most common objection of anything, right? Like, it's the reason why you can thumb through a magazine relatively fast, because the ads you filter are, this doesn't apply to me, so you just go right past it. So the story I used to tell people, which, like I said, I'm going to have to change now because of the potential I see in Steal Our Winners, is that I have built a lot of businesses that I've owned to 8 figures, right? My bio says 7 figures, and I need to change that one of these days, but 8 figures is actually what I've done, but not 99 million. But anyway, so I've never had a 9-figure business. Don't even know, not even mid 5 figures, right? Like, more like 15 to 20 million. So I've never built a business past 100 million. And I have, up until recently, let's say, I had a lot of doubts whether I'm the type of guy that would ever have a $100 million business because of certain flaws that I have, right? Like, I'm kind of flaky at times. I only work on what I want to work on. Whatever, right? I'm not great with conflict until I want to have conflict. And so that makes me not the best manager by a long shot, right? Like, and so there are all these issues, right? So, like, if Mark Ford said to me that I know that Strategic Profits could be a $100 million business, in the back of my mind, one thought might be like, yeah, it could be a $100 million business, but not if I'm running it. And I don't run it. Matt runs it, but not that I'm involved in it or something like that. But if Mark were to say to me, I think Strategic Profits could be a $100 million business, and let me tell you why. One, you don't like conflict, which is great, because for a company to be a $100 million company, the figurehead, the guy in charge, the guy at top, cannot be the guy that is creating any conflict. Like, people have to believe in that guy. You need a secondary guy that has the conflict, and you already have that built in because you try to avoid it. If all the reasons in my mind were reasons why I might not, he used as reasons to prove that I could. Something that I do in my BGS webinar, it's called crystallization. It's a concept that I developed. Then I would start to believe that it is not only possible, I know it's possible, right? Other businesses have grown to 100 million, so it's definitely possible, but now it's becoming probable. I also had this unique experience once where I was doing a live stream with Dan Kennedy. I was one of several guests, but Dan and I get along pretty well. And so I stuck around, like, while other people, like the people before me and maybe a person or two after me. And what was really interesting is I was sitting with the team that was like watching sales and everything else. And what was interesting to me was how much more sales happened during the before story than they did the after story. And what was interesting about that was, okay, everyone on the live stream was very successful. So like when I'm talking about my before story, if my before story lands with you, Hugo, like you feel like you are where I was, and now I'm on this live stream much more successful than where I was, where you are now. And I'm not saying that in reality, Hugo. I have no idea. You could make a lot more than I do, right? But then all of a sudden, right, like things would feel different. So I don't know if that like makes sense to you the way it's making sense in my head, but empathy is what like most people most of the time feel misunderstood, right? Like you don't really know me. You don't, if you knew how much of a mess up I was, or if you knew this about me, you wouldn't say that, right? So most people feel most of the time misunderstood, and empathy transcends that. It makes someone feel understood. And when someone feels understood, it feels really good. And when someone is trying to help you get to a goal, or sell you something that helps you get to a goal, feeling understood, while not necessary, is certainly an accelerant, a very powerful accelerant and multiplier. So when I think of empathy and making a connection with people, it's about understanding where they're coming from, what concerns, what doubts, whatever is going on in their head. And the more I can speak to that, the more effective my message will be at converting, at whatever. So it's about getting at the core of what someone is going through. And I guess that's the best way for me to describe it. And I'd say that, yeah, I would say that I've been blessed to be somewhat of a highly empathetic person, partly because I was raised by a sociopath, so I know what having no empathy looks like. And it's one of the reasons why I stay away from as many sociopaths as I can. But hopefully, Hugo, that helps. If it doesn't, ask me a follow-up. Dina Colada, you are my hero for sharing. It's not too late for any of you to share, and I appreciate each and every one of you who does share. I appreciate each and every one of you who attend and just are here, but I appreciate those of you who share even more. And who knows, maybe your friends have some questions that I could answer. Hey, Rich, thank you for opening your brain. I have an online training for healthcare professionals where I teach them 4 marketing strategies to build their professional brand in social media in order to get more patients to their private practice. medicalmarketingacademy.com. My main source to get new customers is referrals. What other strategies do you suggest I can use to grow my business? Okay. I have an online training for healthcare professionals where I teach them 4 marketing strategies to build their professional brand in social media in order to get more patients to their private practice. Well, the first thing I would do is be advertising on social media, Renzo. I mean, for sure, right? Like if that's what you're using, like you got to eat your own dog food, right? So I'd say first and foremost that. I'd also say, though, that hopefully, Renzo, you're a Steal Our Winners member. And if you are, I did a interview or a segment with Daniel Levis, I think 2 days ago. So it will be in the October issue. And he's using Video Ask as a way of like qualifying people, segmenting, and actually having them apply for a high-end coaching program all on one page. And it's really cool. So if you're a Steal Our Winners member, really cool process that I think would get anyone a higher response rate right now because it's a unique, different approach that I think would get people's attention and is very effective. And it uses Video Ask, but another tool that you could use is Go Tolstoy. either Video Ask or Go Tolstoy would be effective. So I would use a process like that. But yeah, I would most likely advertise on social media wherever you are strongest. And I would most likely next advertise on YouTube. YouTube seems to be the best place to advertise right now. And then after that, I would say TikTok, believe it or not, or Instagram. I think the format of TikTok, what's very interesting to me is that you cannot take ads from Facebook and make them work on TikTok. You cannot take ads from YouTube and make them work on TikTok, but you can take TikTok ads and they work on Facebook and they work on YouTube. And I think what that really speaks to is that this micro video type of interactivity is the future, right? Shorter videos and interactivity makes a long session out of short videos. So that is what I think, Renzo. I mean, I don't know that I'm not giving you anything obvious. I think that having lots of case studies of the success that you've gotten for people would be very useful. I mean, that's kind of what part of the manifesto is all about. I think you could make it so that you have two different prices. One that you charge if people don't commit to giving you a referral, and a cheaper price that once they've gotten their result, or once you've helped them get the result and done everything that you said, that they would refer someone else. I think, you can make it a condition of doing business with you. And I also think that, well, those would be the most obvious, I would say. I mean, without knowing more about those 4 marketing methods, if there's anything unique about it, any point of difference, it's hard to necessarily say. Gentleman who's on a lot of these live streams, Dr. Vogelman, he helps chiropractors grow their business, and medical doctors, I believe. And so similar business. And he might have a comment that he throws in the comment section about possibly what channels work best for him if he's so willing to share. But those would be the, I don't know if you have a funnel right now or not. But certainly would be a good idea to expand your social media presence if you haven't. And just let me look at the question one last time. Healthcare professionals. Yeah, see, so healthcare professional is so open. It's hard to be specific, but hopefully that helps, Renzo. I wish I could give you a more specific answer, but the question's kind of general. So I don't know if I can. All right. Lots of questions. Wow. Okay. Trying to get back to that question. All right. Rich, this is a cool backyard you have. Yeah. Well, thank you. Hello, Rich. Hello, Emmy. So I ran a successful remote real estate business online. All right. That's cool, David. Is there a reason why you're saying that? Beautiful background. It's my backyard. And my office is over there. And my house is over there. Right? And the pool is in the middle. Are you planning to jump in again at the end of the broadcast? I could be. If enough people share, I will jump into the pool. Although I'm going to take off my Yeezys. And I might have to take off my Yeezys for that. But I would be willing to jump in the pool. Hey, Lisa in Miami Beach. Good to see you. Shared 3 times. That's why, Dr. Vogelman, you are my hero. How important it is to choose a niche that is based upon your past profession? I don't think it's that important at all. I think as long as you've learned from what it is you've done and that can be applied going forward, I don't think it's that important. However, having said that, right, like oftentimes, even if it's unrelated, you can leverage stuff if like you can think of the right frame. So, for example, when I started coaching online, I'd say the majority of my clients were making more than me, but I would also say that I was able to leverage my past experience of growing offline businesses for being a coach of helping people grow online businesses. So it took me a couple years and a bunch of people like rattling that into my brain for me to really get that I could leverage my past success in unrelated businesses offline as a credentializing mechanism for me to be the right person to help people grow their businesses online. Nowadays, I don't need any of that, right? Because I've certainly helped a lot of online businesses grow. But when I started, I didn't. And so I don't think it's necessary. I think it's good if you can leverage your past, because then you're just starting from a more advanced position. And you should certainly learn from, you should never, like, if you're jumping from one business to the next, right? There's a big difference between people that move to another business where they're able to leverage what they've learned in this business that they're now leaving. If you go into a completely different business with a completely different model, with a completely different prospect, with everything different, then you don't really get the opportunity to leverage any of the experience that you had in the previous business. And I think that's a bigger mistake, actually, than just picking a niche based on past or present or whatever. It's like, do you have an advantage in that niche based on your experience or based on your past story or something? But obviously, the more advantages you have, Chris, or Dr. Vogelman, the better off you are. So I would say that's where I come from, that, or where I stand, or what I think is that more so than anything else. Thanks again for your event in 2008 at Disney. You gave me a free ticket and a trip from Japan. Great event. I'm still in touch with some people from it. Well, that's awesome, buddy. And I'm glad that you did, right? I'm also glad that so many people were at that event and saw a young and up-and-coming Gary Vaynerchuk, who, I certainly was the first in our industry to ever bring him in. And Gary and I went to the first South by Southwest together after that event. Unfortunately, Gary and I have drifted apart. I mean, we're still acquaintances, I would say, but we're not close friends anymore. Great guy. He's as charismatic in person as he is in his videos and stuff. Watching a squirrel walk by. That was a great event. And for those that don't know about that event, it was a non-pitch event, because I've only done non-pitch events. I don't necessarily like putting on pitch events. I wouldn't know because I've never done one, but I don't want to. And at that event, I had John Carlton speaking, Jay Abraham speaking, Frank Kern, Jeff Walker, myself, Mike Filsame, Paul Sheely, Janet Schweitzer, Mary Ellen Tribby, and I'm leaving some people out that probably will be offended. But it was a great event, and really happy about it. So thank you, buddy. I used to be a dating coach, and I used my name, Dina Colada, and I have a ton of backlinks redirected from Dina Colada to a dating blog. Okay, I think that works. I don't think that's a problem, unless you're asking me a question there. Joanne Thompson, are you and Amber interested in potential JV business ventures? If so, how do I contact you? I have followed you for many years and trust and love your passion for uniqueness. We are always interested in joint venture opportunities. I can't speak for Amber, but if you want to talk to us about it, you can contact Michelle at strategicprofits.com. And that will put you in touch with Michelle Madison, who is our director of internal and external mailings. But I want to use my name for my marketing site and not my dating site, but I can't get rid of the backlinks and don't want to get penalized by Google from bouncing off. Got it. You know what, Dina, that's a question that should be geared more towards an SEO type person. I don't feel like I can give you the best advice for it, because I don't know how best to deal with that situation. So I would say that more often than not, people make a bigger deal about these things than they really are. But I don't want to say that because I'm speaking out of a very surface level understanding. And there are certain things that can be done that will actually decimate your rankings and everything, which I don't think you want to do. But you really need to talk to someone who really knows their stuff when it comes to SEO. And because I'm not really sure what the impact would be. So, yeah, sorry, Dina. It's just not my wheelhouse. And I'm always scared to give advice outside of my wheelhouse, because I don't want to give you the wrong advice, have you do something, and have it set you back, and thinking that because I told you it was the right thing. We want to franchise using a course framework and plugging them into our process and systems. Is there a formula you use to price the value of your high-ticket course/franchise? Well, I mean, the two are totally different, right? I mean, a high-ticket course, you're charging one time. A franchise is a big franchise fee, and then people are paying you royalties or license rights, like based on sales, and there's minimums usually. There's franchise rights. There's master franchise rights for certain territories where people can sub-franchise. I mean, it's a totally different ballgame. If you really wanted to understand that better, I know that there's a chiropractor company, I forget the guy's name, a student of Dan Kennedy's that built like a chiropractic franchise, and that would be interesting to look at. I also know that Kennedy Glazer developed a franchise program, and Dan Kennedy taught about it. I didn't go through that material because it's not really something that I've spent a lot of time in. But I've had a few friends that have done franchises and have done pretty well. So it is a good model. You got to get licensed in a lot of states. It's a lot of legal work. But obviously, if you can have, 100 locations and everyone's giving you 5 or 10%, like that money stacks. And so definitely something that is worth exploring. But it is a lot of work, and it's a lot of legal stuff. And when you have franchises, it's part of the law that you have to also report like how those franchises do, how your corporate stores, the ones you own, do versus the ones that other people buy do. And so there's a lot of disclosure that is necessary. And so it's a lot of work. But if handled correctly and done by pros, it can make you a lot of money. So it's just, once again, this is another area where it's like I have some knowledge, but I'm not an expert. And at least in your question, I don't understand like how you're even equating high ticket with franchise, because they're so different. One is a one and done kind of thing. One is like they're buying into a partnership. You're responsible long term for certain things. You could always run the risk of, like, if you're not delivering enough, of your franchisees kind of ganging up against you, which I've seen, and it's a nightmare. So, it's really different. There's a big difference between getting married and a one-night stand. Selling a high-ticket course is more like a one-night stand. Franchise is more like marriage. So it's just a totally different world. What steps would have taken if you were just starting now? I would kind of do what I did, right? I would start a coaching program. I would make it application only. I would have an over-the-top guarantee like mine was when I first started my coaching program, which was you will double the amount you make and you will cut the number of hours you work in half, or I will refund every penny that you ever paid me. And I worked personally with these people, so I would have been giving back a lot of money for my time. That got people to apply, but then I only accepted the people that I felt I could deliver on that promise to. So it was a way of getting more people to raise their hand, which then allowed me to select the ones that I could actually deliver upon. I would also do what I did back then as well, but I would do it differently as far as reports. Like, certainly I had an advantage back in 2006 since the free model was at that moment in time just like e-courses and, like one email a day for 5 days. And I was the first person really to come out with like a 35-page professionally like designed kind of report that was high value. And so because of that, I was able to take it. I was really kind of like one of the pioneers of the free model, right? Like outside of like an email course. And so that gave me a lot of benefit, and I couldn't replicate that today, but I would certainly seek out new formats, and I would certainly package my information in as many formats as I could, because a prospect was worth, let's say, $5 to me when they opted in, but if they read the manifesto, they're worth $100 to me. So I want the message of the manifesto to get in as many people's heads as possible. So that would mean it would be a book. It would be a book. It would be a audiobook. It would be a video. It would be a report. It would be a podcast. It would be as many different formats as I could put it out there in. It would be a pillar post on my blog. It would like as many different ways, because like if you have a message that when people interact with it, they immediately become worth a lot more money to you, then why wouldn't you try and package it in as many formats as possible? So I would say I would do a lot of the same things I did. I would just do them differently because they would have to be more updated to the times. Yeah. Conclusions about Tony. I don't know Tony well, so I think I should keep it to myself. I just find, so I'm not going to say that Tony is this way, but there are certain people who are successful who I think they don't do this intentionally, but they become infatuated with people that can help them. And then after they've gotten the help, their infatuation kind of dissipates. And so I call those kind of people users, whether they do it intentionally or not. And I think you can judge someone by the number of people that come in and out of their life, and how many people have good and positive things to say about the time, and how many people have negative things to say about the time. And so, yeah, I will also say that if anyone's been to a Tony Robbins event, like Date with Destiny or whatever, my experience of it, the content was phenomenal. My experience was phenomenal. But I had a problem with something. And, they raised money for charity for their scholarship fund. And they put a lot of peer pressure to raise as much money for charity. In fact, your seating is based on how much money was raised. That would be great if it was for a real charity. The charity was buying tickets for Tony Robbins events for underprivileged people. Of course, they make them pay to get there and pay for the hotel, so they really come out of pocket with zero, right? And but they give them the ticket for free, not for free, because that's what the money that they raise for charity is going to. So it'd be like me raising a lot of money for charity to buy my business growth coaching program for underprivileged people. Well, it doesn't cost me anything to deliver the business growth system. So why should you raise money for charity to pay the full price for that? And that's what I was under the impression he did. I asked questions about it. I got in trouble. Like they didn't want to talk about that. But I think that is sketchy as fuck. And I think it's wrong. And I got no problem saying that. So maybe I'm wrong. And if I am, I'm not saying that's fact. That's what I believed. And that's what was confirmed to me when I was saying it was a problem when I was there. But I would never do that. Right. And I wouldn't do certain other things that I just don't even want to talk about. But I think like I don't see people as expendable to get to my outcome. And there are a lot of people in this world who do. Right. Like I will not step on people to get something. And I'm not saying he does, but read between the lines. Jay Abram once admonished me to become a chiropractic practice guru, but I prefer personal development. Would you agree with Jay? I would, only because selling money at a discount is about 10 times easier than selling personal development. But if you're okay with that, then do whichever, right? Like Mark Ford told me a long time ago that I would make a lot more money if I sold magic. I don't remember the quote exactly, but it used to be on a Post-it, and I used to have it taped to my office, like on my desk at my old office, not the building that I owned, but previously. And I taped it to my desk because I wanted it to remind myself anytime that I wanted to complain about making more, that it was a decision that I made that I didn't want to do certain things. And those certain things were much more profitable, but that I would much rather be proud of how I interacted with each person, proud of like what I've accomplished, proud of the impact, all of those things. And so for me, I didn't want to do what like would be more profitable and potentially easier. I wanted to do it this way, and I was willing to make less. So if you're in the same boat, then great. But if you're asking me which would be best as far as ease and making maximum money, then the practice guru would certainly be a lot more money, because at that point you're selling money at a discount. People buy your stuff because they believe they will make more, and people always spend more money on that than they will personal development. And it's just the way it goes. Rich, do you care to share your, I already did. I recall you mentioned that call between you, Jay, and Tony. Yeah, that was another thing, right? Totally understand your feelings surrounding that event. I always try to pay attention to everyone, not just the big cheese. Yeah, and that really, like, I did a call with Jay Abraham and Tony, and And Jay has a good relationship with Tony, and I respect that. You know, Jay is like a second father to me, and I certainly believe I'm closer with Jay than Tony is, but, you know, but I don't make Jay anywhere near the amount of money that Tony does. And so I'm respectful of that relationship. And when Jay and I did this project called League of Extraordinary Minds, Jay really wanted to include Tony. And I didn't have a problem with that. He's a draw. He's got a huge name. Obviously, like, there's no comparison between how many people know me and know him. I mean, he's internationally recognized. I'm niche recognized. So there's no comparison, right? But Jay and I did this call with Tony. Now, first of all, it was supposed to be live. I flew to California, and then Tony canceled that morning for no good reason. Then rescheduled for 2 days later, and then that canceled. So then I flew back, and I was like, we'll just do this on the phone. But it was Jay and Tony that wanted to do this live. That's why I flew out there. It wasn't like I was flying out there because I was all excited about it. And then when we did it on the phone, I don't know, like Tony didn't like me. And this was before, like I already had my reservations about him because I had gone to that event back in 2001 that I told you about. This is like 2012, 13 or something like that, or 11. And so the interview's an hour long. We ended up being on the call for 5 hours because Tony wanted to retape his answers time and time again. Okay. So a 1 hour call became 5 hours, and I was stuck on the phone for 5 hours. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, I had like 3 questions. Jay had 3 questions, right? When I asked my 3 questions, he answered Jay. So there was zero interaction between Tony and I, yet I was stuck on this call for 5 hours, and I wouldn't hang up because of indifference to the relationship that Jay has with Tony. But when it was over, I was furious, right? I was stuck on this call for 5 hours. I could have just recorded 3 questions and we could have put them in there later. Jay was profuse in his acknowledgement of how wonderful the interview was and how great Tony was and everything, right? And then asked me what I thought, and I was like, what you said, Jay. And that was it. And since that time, I have made my feelings a little bit more known because I think that was such a big fuck you to me, and he had no reason for it, that I don't owe him anything. And I think his content's great, but his content is synthesized from a lot of places. None of it is really original to him. And he does a great job. And if he had another big event, I would certainly want to get the notes from it at the very least. He is one of the best synthesizers in the world. He's a great performance coach. He's really intelligent. He's written some great books. So I could say a lot of wonderful things about him. His content has helped me many times in my life. So I have nothing bad to say about his content. I just have some judgments about how he treats people, and having been on the receiving side of that treatment, I can tell you I didn't like it, and therefore I don't like him. Not all friends should be business friends. Yeah, well, that was the moral of that story. Not that story, but a previous one. Rich, if I'm in the niche, similar to yours, of teaching coaches and consultants marketing tactics and strategies, I see your infinity funnel system dominating the market. What would you do if you were me? I think the most important thing, Martin, is to begin to master short form content. I think, like I said earlier, I think there's a reason why TikTok ads work everywhere, but nothing else works on TikTok except TikTok ads. I think people want shorter content, like short form video. And while it doesn't need to be as short as like a TikTok video, I do think that making modularized pieces that answer a specific question, that get a specific outcome, is the future. I think that courses are more and more going to be more and more difficult to sell. It's the reason why you see in the market a lot of people selling high ticket and low price, but you see less and less of big launches or stuff like that for $2,000 products or $3,000 products. Because those are harder to sell now, because people are not like wowed by getting 30 hours of content, right? Like people are doing the math, like when can I like dedicate those 30 hours? I'm not saying courses are going to become extinct. There certainly aren't. There's always going to be a place for courses. But I think that there's been an explosion of course platforms, everything from Thinkific, Teachable, Udemy, you name it, Masterclass. There's a million of them, right? Kajabi just got like valued at $1 billion. there are a proliferation of course platforms, and therefore there's been a proliferation of courses. But let me ask you, how much time do you have to dedicate on a weekly basis to courses? And how many courses do you currently have that you would like to go through, but don't have the time? And understand that if you've answered either of those questions where you don't, understand you're not alone. Most people are in that same boat. So we're constantly making sneakers for people who have no feet, right? We're building courses for people who have no time to watch them. So I think that like part of like any future-oriented solution is recognizing that and figuring out a way where you can make your content much more modularized, minimum publishing unit kind of thing. And therefore you can mix and match. I think that's part of it. I would also say that that where you're going to have to be worried, Martin, is on the acquisition side. But you know, obviously, if you're helping coaches and consultants with their marketing, I would assume you have a high ticket product, and if not, you should. Of course, acquisition will always be a challenge, but if you have a high ticket product, you can subsidize quite an expensive acquisition cost. And so I would say, you know, even in high ticket programs, if what you deliver can be modularized into short videos so that you can then use those videos in other places and sell them as individual solutions, you're heading down the right direction. I think there's more that I can share with you over time as I learn more, as I'm looking at our platform and I'm developing it more. And I would imagine that like after December, once we introduce it to the world, I'll have a lot more information for you, Martin. So if you ask me that question again, I will have a different answer for you in a few months. But I would say it starts with modularized content. There's a lot of deep empathy in this right here. Well, thank you, Gogo. Love this story. I hope it wasn't the one about Tony. Yep, everything is perspective. This is the kind of question a wise man asks. Good for you. I've never heard the story paraphrased with the conclusion by the old man, you can never tell if anything is good or bad until God gets through with it. Yeah, that's what I believe, right? Like, you know, and Tony Robbins talks about this. Sometimes your worst days like are your best days in hindsight. And you could say that about like my story about the syndicate, right? Like if it wasn't for me being left out, I would not have developed the automated webinar. I assume someone would have. I think we'd still be using automated webinars, but I wouldn't have developed it. And if I hadn't developed it at the end of 2007, beginning of 2008, then I wouldn't have had the crazy profitable years that we had in 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, and 2012. So that's a good example of it, right? Like what really hurt me when it happened, like, you know, business friends, like all getting together and leaving you out. Really painful, right? But a lot of good things wouldn't have happened for me if that was the case. Gogo, Rich, would you consider the best frame insight for convincing people to take a long road rather than a short road to success? Or what would you consider the best frame or insight for? Well, I don't know, Gogo, if this is the best frame, but this is my truth, and maybe it is a good frame. But I've been rich and I've been poor. I've been poor after being rich and poor before being rich. And I can tell you that, like, growing up, I grew up in an affluent neighborhood, and I had some friends whose parents had a lot of money and then lost that money. And those kids, like, had become used to one lifestyle and then had to adjust to another lifestyle. And those kids were miserable. When I was poor before I was rich, I didn't know what I was missing. Therefore, I was not miserable. When I was poor after I was rich and now could not do all the things that I had grown accustomed to do, like even walk into a bookstore and just buy a bunch of books without looking at the price tag, as opposed to going in and buying just one book because money was that tight. I can tell you that it sucks a lot more to have it and lose it than to never have it. It sucks a lot more to have it and lose it than to never have had it. So when you play the short game, you are setting yourself up for misery, because the odds are is that you'll get a taste. If you're successful, there'll be a taste of that success, and it will be wonderful. And then you'll remember that wonderful taste the rest of your life as you are starving. And so I would say that, like, I don't ever want to play something short because I've had that experience. I also know that reputation, like, precedes you. And I can tell you that nowadays I probably make a lot more money because of who I am than what I do and what I've done. So people, when they talk about me behind my back in a positive way, they talk about me playing the long game, that I am not someone who is going to screw you for anything, like, you know, like, that's just not my thing, right? Like, that's not how I play the game. And so I would say that, you know, a lot of people come and go, and I've seen a lot of people come and go. I've coached a lot of people that have come and gone, unfortunately. And yeah, it sucks if you get a taste of success and then it all disappears. So that would probably be, for me, the biggest frame, because that's my truth. I'd also say, though, that anything that happens fast can be lost fast. And that applies to everything, right? If you lose weight really fast, the odds of gaining it back are much higher than if you lose it slow. Most things in life are like that. And when, like, you know, so even though I've played the long game, I've had some crazy big short successes, right? Like the manifesto took me from completely unknown to, at that moment in time, like the most known, like, guru online, you know, better known than Vaynerchuk, better known, like, in 2006, right? In 2008, when I did my 24-hour live stream, we were the #1 live stream online that day. That was more than McCain. That was more than Rogan. That was more than Vaynerchuk. So I've certainly had my pops, right? But by playing the long game, recognizing that I'm not here, like, you know, I'm not here for a short time. I'm here for a long time. How I behave is going to determine my future. And I also want to be proud about how I lived. I want my kids to be proud of who I am and our last name. Whoops. Why is that going out? That's so weird. Hold on a second, guys. I'll be right back. All right. I have no idea why that's going out. All right. Well, it looks like we're going to use one less light now. Yep. All right. Sorry if the lighting has changed a little bit. I can turn on another light, but I think we're good for now. So, Gogo, I hope that helps. Thank you for sharing your failures. Very courageous. I don't think it is that courageous, Amit, but thanks for saying that. You know, one of the things that I have to get over, I think, is that I share my problems, but I don't really share the emotional aspect of them. I don't think. So even though I'm very forthcoming about the challenges that I experience, I don't necessarily talk about the emotional component of them. And I feel that because of that, I'm less real, less authentic. It's one of the reasons why I like Katrina Ruth or Wes Watson, like, because I feel like that rawness of, like, not only talking about the challenge, but talking about the emotional component of it. I don't know how to do that without being bitchy and whiny. I want to, right? Because I want to make a more emotional connection with people. And more often than not, I'm referred to as someone who is intense and that, like, much more analytical, which is how I am. But, you know, I'd say that, yeah, what would be very courageous is to really share some more of the emotional pain and stuff like that. And I don't even have access to it as well. So it's not just a choice, although part of it certainly is. It's also how I'm wired, I think. And it is something I want to eventually get over. I just don't know the best way to do it. And I don't know how to do it in a way where it is not whiny and bitchy. I remember Todd running around your office a long time ago. Yeah, it was a long time ago, and those were the good old days. I have had a multiple personality patient, but not a multiple personality business. Totally different, right? Opportunity cost and failures. Yeah, exactly. Like, certainly the biggest failures I've had have been failures to capitalize, not failures that I did something and didn't turn out. You might have already answered my question, haha. I've been torn with using my name as a brand. If you're proud of who you are and it helps you live up to a higher standard, then I think you should. Right? Like, I am very, like, I hope you are too, Dina. I'm very proud of what I've accomplished and the people I've helped and the difference I've made. I certainly feel like at least our community, the internet marketing space, would be different if I was never here. And that makes me really proud. It makes me know that, like, my life mattered. And I certainly wouldn't want to do that under a pseudonym. Like, why? Collaboration of people within a larger framework can really accelerate growth. Totally agree. Hey, Rich shared, got me a cigar and enjoying life. Looks like you're doing the same. Good vibes. Yeah, I really should be smoking a cigar. And I got these great cigars from a friend of mine who I have to thank. I forgot about that. That came yesterday. But I have a cigar here, so I could start. All my good lighters are over there, but I have a Bic here, so let's do that. I was just watching your presentation on MFA Live about shifting the prospect's beliefs into what you want them to believe in order to make the sale. Can you walk us through your process to make it happen? You know, there's so much involved in that, knowing. But what I would say is that it starts with having a core concept. And the core concept, I wrote a report and created a video on the core concept, both of which are free in our Facebook group. So I'd really recommend that you, if you're not a member of the Facebook group, you join it. It's free. And you would get the first big lesson in what it takes. The core concept is the single belief that if someone believes, the default decision is to buy your product. So I came up with the core concept because I recognized pretty early on that most people, most of the time, are not going to see all of your marketing messages, which means that every marketing message should support this single belief in some way, shape, or form, because it's this one belief that gets people to buy. So if every message kind of dovetails into that, right, then the likelihood of that belief being believed, being embraced, being engaged with, etc., is much higher. Now, there are other methods, right? It starts with a core concept. Crystallization is something I mentioned earlier, where you take the bad behaviors of your prospect, you surface the positive intent, and show them that it's not the behavior, it's the behavior that is caused by misapplied approach or strategy. And so that lets them off the hook and has them blame the process or the way about going about getting the outcome as opposed to themselves. I want to turn on the lights above me. So I know, like, dead space and dead air is always a horrible thing, but I appreciate you guys if you don't leave. I'm literally just walking right over there to turn on the light. I will be right back. All right. Sorry about that. So I'm wearing an outfit right now. I have had this shirt for over 20 years. I bought it in Australia in December of 2001, actually. And same with these pants. And I haven't been able to wear them in a long, long time, but I'm losing a lot of weight and I'm putting on a lot of muscle. And so I was excited to test out a new outfit for me, but one that I've owned for 20 years. So Noan, I hope that helps. That would be the start. Go through the core concept stuff. After that, ask me more questions and I'll be glad to walk you through more. If you're a I think we have that in the Steal Our Winners. Like if you're a lifetime member, there's also the $1 million report, right? Not the workshop, like not the 3-day event I did, but I did do like a 90-minute presentation at my office that someone filmed with an iPhone to just some clients of mine of how I went about shifting beliefs and reports. And, you know, it's not the 3-day workshop where I go deep in it, but I do explain the whole thing and people get it. And that's in Steal Our Winners if you have the lifetime, I think. Empathy is walking in one's shoes, of course. Does the personal development niche cross into the big 3? Well, generally, it's related to, like, there's personal development to be healthy, right? Fitness, all that kind of stuff. There's personal development to be wealthy. There's personal development for relationships. And then happiness is health, I guess you would say. Well, wealth is the easiest by far, right? Like, I paid Jay Abraham $5,000 an hour back when I had my hypnosis centers because I believed that like that $20,000 to sit down with him for 4 hours would make me hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's made me millions upon millions of dollars, but I thought it would make me hundreds of thousands. If there was a psychiatrist who had a reputation for doing amazing work, no matter how amazing, and I'm messed up in the head in lots of ways. We all are, right? It would be much more difficult for me to rationalize the 20 grand to pay to see that guy, even though like what he possibly could deliver, like true lifelong acceptance and happiness and all this would be much more valued, be much more difficult to sell. And I ask you that, Dr. Vogelman, like, have you spent more to make more, or have you spent more to be happy, like on personal development stuff, etc.? If you had like the option of sitting down with whoever you respect the most as it relates to business growth, and like, would you be willing to spend the same amount to someone who was just happiness centered or something like that? Most people would say no. You might be an exception. I get it. But that's why. Increases in your network increase your net worth exponentially if who is in your network are positive influences, not negative influences. Crazy how dark it's become, huh? Like when sundown happens, it really happens. Let me pull out a little bit because I think I might want to actually light a few torches. Yeah, let's light those two. Should I light these two behind me just so that we get a little fire? I think so. All right. One sec. All right. There we go. All righty. Cool. Your reports of Founder Club membership information is amazing. Well, thank you, Joanne. God, conflict avoidance is unfortunately my MO. It is until it isn't, right? Like, in other words, I'll avoid conflict until I really want to have it because I avoided so long. Now it's like bursting out at the seams. But I don't do that. I try not to do that anymore. You never see Bill Bonner, the most invisible man. Oh, I've seen Bill Bonner many times. You haven't seen Bill Bonner. So you should say, I never see Bill Bonner. But I see Bill. Actually, he was on. I have a picture of a Zoom call I was on the other day with Bill. I wondered the same, but I think he chooses not to share on purpose. If you're talking about Bill, yeah, he's a private guy. Change your thought, change your lives. Yep. Yes, it makes sense. Thank you. Cool. Hey, Rich, my hero. Well, thank you, Hamza. Aim higher. LOL. Fuck. Okay, there we go. Yes, I've been hovering around Video Ask and similar tools. I'm going to be all over that. Yeah, I think that's the future, man. I really do. I think you will get a boost in conversion if you take a process and put it into that. Yes, TikTok and Instagram Reels are starting to give me some real traction in conversations. And what you notice, right, is if you took out all the TikToks from Instagram Reels, what would you have? 20% left of Instagram Reels? Like 80% of them are TikTok. Same with Google Shorts. Like, I'm not on TikTok very much. So, I'm not saying this as someone who's, like, drank the Kool-Aid. It's just, if you look at trends, it's relatively obvious. Rich, what kind of books do you like to read outside of business? I like to read psychology books. I like to read philosophy books. I like to read books that relate to the topic of transformation, which is philosophy generally, ontology, ontological coaching. Oh, I want to get back to that book at some point, give you the real takeaways of the language and the pursuit of happiness. But I read a lot of that, right? It's pretty much all nonfiction. Big fan of Nietzsche, big fan of Osho's writing. Big fan of Heidegger. Huge fan of Werner Erhard, Fernando Flores. Many more. J.B. Austin, Searle with Speech Acts. Yeah. So those are the kind of books I like to read. Books that I feel smarter after having read them. But you know what? Like, something I would recommend everyone watches, but if you're a man, even more so, but definitely everyone, is Andrew Huberman. So Huberman, I think it's like, but it might be second N too. Andrew Huberman, he's a professor of neurobiology at Stanford Medical School and also of ophthalmology. He was on Joe Rogan. That's where I was first exposed to him. Since then, I've subscribed to his podcast. I've watched him do interviews in a bunch of other places. He just released an episode of his podcast. This most recent episode is all about dopamine. And you will learn more about dopamine than you ever even realized. And you will also realize a lot of the things you probably think about dopamine are completely wrong. So Andrew Huberman is my new intellectual crush. I go from intellectual crush to crush, right? Like, I want to now learn as much as humanly possible from Andrew Huberman. I'm really busy right now, so I can't dive as deep as I normally would with someone's stuff. But so I'm just taking a little taste here and there. But at some point, I will kind of dive very, very deep into his stuff. I love his overviews of things. If you want to know why I look more muscular recently, it probably has to do with some of the supplements like Tunga Ali and a few others that I started taking based on Andrew Huberman's interview on Rogan's podcast. So yeah, that's if Huberman did have a book called, I think it's called Projection. No, it's called Projection. I started reading it, but it's not, I think that he wrote that, or maybe that was a different person. But that's who I'm fascinated by now. And usually that's what happens. Like, if I read a book by someone or I'm exposed to an interview by someone and I really, really get a lot of value out of the book or what they speak, I will then generally dive very deep into something, which is why, by the way, that I feel that it's so important to make time for great stuff. That I know that there's a benefit to being crazy prolific, but if that prolificness causes mediocrity, at least for someone like me, and I know that most people are not like me, so I'm not saying this as a rule, but for me, right? If I come across the one thing that someone did that was great, the likelihood of me buying almost everything from that person is really high. If I come across something and I read it and I think it's marginal at best, the likelihood that I will ever reinitiate with anything of that person's is very, very low. So that's why, when I find something that I really like, one name that comes to mind, it was an author, and I think it was a medical doctor, definitely a psychologist, psychiatrist, David Seabury. I've read every one of David Seabury's books, and I think he's been dead for quite a while. But I read one of them, and I thought it was phenomenal. And whenever I come across a phenomenal book, I want to read every other book that the person has written. Renzo, I reached out to connect. I run marketing for medical practice, and I might have some ideas that help. Oh, awesome, go. Cool. Hey, Rich, what do you think of YouTube didn't create TikTok or do anything really in short form video? Well, now they are. They're doing YouTube Shorts. also recognize that YouTube made more money this past quarter or past year than they've ever made. So they're doing a lot of things right. In fact, YouTube is probably the platform that is easiest to scale right now. Their algorithm is great. And the damage that Google and Apple did to Facebook makes Facebook less able to work and makes YouTube much more able to work. Now, don't think that Apple and Google are going to be friends forever, because they won't be. They will screw each other over too. This is a game of like the most intense type of business. But, you know, it's always better to be great at what you already do and be able to buy competitors. And that's what these guys have done for the most part. It's one of the reasons why I think no big tech, Amazon, Google, Apple, Facebook, Instagram, and all those, right? Like that group. I don't think they should be able to have an acquisition. They should be able to buy a company for more than $100 million. That's one of the easiest ways to like start stunning their growth so that they don't take over the world. These are separate countries. Well, that's the way Mark Ford thinks about them, and I kind of tend to agree. They have their own rules. They have their own sovereignty in many ways. So, yeah. Yeah, okay, but I'm trying to ease my... Done for you. Agency just being strategic branded social posting right now. Got it. So that's where the mosquitoes play. Well, most of the time. However, I did install recently like a $4,000 spray system, which is why I'm not getting eaten alive right now. Like I got one bite. But it's a misting system. It mists 5 times a day, you know, anti-mosquito stuff. And it is... what has allowed me to start enjoying my backyard a lot more. Michelle Madison is in the house. I gave your email address out quite a while ago. Michelle will be down here shortly. She's coming down here first for one of our closest friends, bachelorette/bridal shower. But it's over 5 days, which seems insanely long. You know, generally a bachelor party is one night and then you recover the next day. I can't imagine a 5-day event. But anyway, Michelle's coming down for that. And then immediately after, we have our team meetings here, right here, around this pool, et cetera, et cetera. You planning to speak more on observations, being able to see opportunities? If you've got a question about it, I certainly would be glad to. YouTube is starting to promote their short form stories now. They were already, my friend. I don't know if they're promoting them anywhere near as much as they were. But you can watch some big YouTube channels where they talk extensively about it, who stay on top of the pulse. Just like Instagram stories copied Snapchat, I think YouTube is going to take on TikTok. I think they're all going to. That's what their goal is. No one wants to cede any advantage, right? I was going to say use every part of the pig in regards to Chris's question, but that's not kosher. Apologies. Well, I don't eat kosher even though I'm Jewish, but thanks, Sean. Squirrels walk. Well, they can stand on their hind legs. And what's really interesting is I don't know where they get them from, but there are a bunch of squirrels, and for whatever reason, they've picked my backyard to hide peanuts in their shell. So I don't know where they get these peanuts and shells. There's a school right next door, right? But like, I don't think they serve peanuts in schools anymore, right? Because some kids are allergic to peanuts. So I don't know where they get these peanuts. I don't know where they're getting them peanuts in the shell, but in almost every cushion, there's a peanut that was hidden by a squirrel. And I just find it hilarious every time I see a peanut. I'm like, where the hell did this come from? Yeah, Paul Shilley of Learning Strategies. Yep. You got to remember that I have a pretty extensive background in hypnosis, NLP, et cetera. I don't talk about it much. Certainly guides some of my thinking. Just how could it not, having spent many years in that profession? But yeah, I mean, it's a part of my past. I built the largest hypnosis company that existed at the time, and studied, you know, NLP and every type of hypnosis possible, every indirect suggestion, all of that stuff. I wasn't very good at it, so I'll just be clear. Like, my strength is much more on the business side. But I learned it all. I'm an SEO. It makes me crazy. Okay, well, then you know who to talk to. Go to the mirror, Dina, and ask yourself the question. A lot of people go through life without a true understanding of themselves. So while a strategy of preeminence that requires an intimate understanding of your customers looks good in theory, how do you truly get to know your customers at that deeper level when first starting out? If you're helping others solve a problem that you have personally had, then you would be closer towards understanding them. But otherwise, it's a bit of a guessing game. Surveys can only do so much. Perhaps past, and I guess, Damien, do you get to the other part? I don't see the rest of Damien's question. Well, being a coach helps, Damien. Being a coach gives you all the answers really fast, because in order to help people, they have to get real with you. And so I have found that coaching, if you're a coach and you don't know what's going on inside the mind of your market, then you're not a good coach if you're coaching anyone. Because in order for me to help someone, I need to know what they're thinking. I need to know, like, what they're afraid of, what excites them, what keeps them up at night, those kinds of things. Well, when you've coached enough people in the market, and it doesn't have to be that many, I would say from 5 to 10, you will very quickly see patterns. And those patterns will be patterns that people keep secret but will share with their coach. And that gives you all the ammunition you need, right? So there you go. That's the easiest way. Thank you, Rich. I will contact Michelle. Well, Michelle is the person I just said hello to. So she was on the stream. I can't say she's still on, but she was. I have to leave soon to attend your funeral, your referral to the Wild Summit. I will watch the replay. Thank you, Rich. You're welcome. I think Kennedy called his franchise stuff growth opportunity concepts. No, growth opportunity concepts was selling opportunity, which, if you want another version of that, you can. Perry Belcher taught very much similar. I think he was very much inspired by Dan, who knows, but Opportunity Concepts was a great course. So is the Belcher selling system. But yeah, Opportunity Concepts is all about how do you leverage the concepts of selling opportunity to sell anything. And it was really good. Taking into account the upcoming season, how does ecstasy feel? As in, how did you behave when on it that allowed you to make fast friends so we introverts can practice? Oh. All right. So ecstasy makes you feel extremely confident, makes your whole body feel great. I had done a lot of it prior, like when I was in the fashion and music business. So this wasn't an experiment. I knew exactly what to expect. And I did a very small dose for myself so that I wasn't going to be out of my head. And for those that don't know what we're talking about here, I said during the Amber live stream that the second internet marketing seminar I went to was Big Seminar, and I wanted to meet the gurus. And so I paid extra to go to this golf day before the event started. I don't play golf, so I just smoke cigars on the golf course. But I took ecstasy, a half pill every day while I was there, because I'm an introvert. And this took me out of my shell and made me very empathetic and want to connect with people. So, look, I would never recommend that to someone. I think that's a very personal decision. Do I regret doing it? Not at all. Those friendships really were my vault, lifted me to a different place and helped me meet people and know more people in the space. That helped me a lot. It's hard for me to talk about this because I really don't want to come off as someone who is telling you that's a good idea to do. I'm just telling you it's something that I did and it worked well for me. It could have went really sideways too. It didn't. But yeah, I'll tell you an interesting story, Red Lip Marketing, though. And it was one of the final things that convinced me ultimately to get involved in the hypnosis business. So, I had what first even got me going down this road was that I read an article in Time Out magazine about this hypnotist, Julie Flanders, and she still practices in New York for anyone who lives in New York. And so I called and made an appointment because I'd never been hypnotized and I always wanted to. And turns out I'm highly hypnotizable. So I had an amazing experience. It was profound. So I started going quite frequently. Once a week, working on different things and getting great results. One week, I didn't have anything I wanted to work on. So my hypnotist said, what do you want to work on? I said, I don't know. And she said, well, let's think about it for a minute. And I thought, well, I used to do a lot of ecstasy when I was younger. And I loved how I was on ecstasy, how I felt, how I connected with people, all of these different things. I'd love to be able, since that's just a release of serotonin, I'd love to be able to cause it myself. It's actually a release of serotonin and dopamine. I found out it's also not toxic to the brain. This is all in that dopamine, Andrew Huberman podcast. Anyway, so she said, okay, great. So that's what we'll do. Try and give you the ability to feel like you feel on it without having to be on it. So that's what we did. We did the session on that. I don't remember anything from the session. Okay. A couple days later, I come down with a cold, which is very unusual for me, but I don't generally get sick. I haven't been sick in like many years, but came down with a cold, or so I thought. 2 days later, I still have the cold, but now I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with the worst headache I've ever had in my life. So bad I'm crying. Like I'm literally crying, and I'm drinking Jack Daniels just to pass out because the pain is surreal, right? Wake up the next morning, I feel fine. I'm like, what the hell was that? Right? Next night, 3 o'clock in the morning again, wake up with this searing pain in my head. I'm scared. I've never had this kind of pain before. I don't know if this has something to do with the cold I have or if something else is going on. Immediately call my doctor. I still lived in New York at this time, and make an appointment, go see my doctor that day. And he tells me, he's like, well, you just have a cold. So that's nothing, right? Don't worry about that. He's like, but you have TMJ and you have a bad case of TMJ. You need to go see a dentist post haste. I will, these muscles are incredibly inflamed. I don't know what's going on here, but these muscles are incredibly inflamed. I'll give you a muscle relaxant and a anti-inflammatory that will help. But until you get a bite plate made by the dentist, you're going to have problems. That day I go to my dentist. Right now, during this time, I should have had another hypnosis appointment. I canceled it because of what was going on. Following week, right? So I go to the dentist, get a bite plate made, all that kind of stuff. Supposed to pick up the bite plate like the day after my next hypnosis appointment. Go for my hypnosis appointment. Julie Flanders asked me, why did I cancel last week? Was everything okay? And I tell her that I got this cold. Then I started waking up with these crazy headaches. It turns out I have TMJ, blah, 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 blah. She asked me, did you think that had anything to do with the suggestion I gave you? Now, because I generally went into such a deep level of hypnosis, I generally don't remember my sessions. So I was like, well, what suggestion did you give me? And she told me that I told her when she asked me in hypnosis, like, how did I know that the ecstasy was first kicking in? And I said, I would clench my teeth. That's how I would know. Like when I felt my teeth clenching, I knew that the ecstasy was kicking in. And so she gave me the suggestion that anytime I wanted to feel the way I felt back then, to do that, all I needed to do was start the cycle again by clenching my teeth. I swear to God, even though I would have been diagnosed with TMJ, even though maybe it should have connected all in my head, it didn't. But as soon as she told me this, I then, and only then, recognized that I had been clenching my teeth like a MF, right? Like all the time, like an addict who wanted to feel that way, right? So of course that suggestion gave me this problem. It went away as soon as I knew about it. So it was operating outside my conscious awareness, and it was like that convinced me of hypnosis's power, and was the final nail in the coffin that said, man, I really have to introduce this to the masses. People need to know about this. This is insanely powerful, and it can be used to, not for silly things like I'm using it for, but to quit smoking cigarettes, to get over phobias, to gain more confidence, to lose weight, stop procrastinating, focus on goals, all those kinds of things. I appreciate you, Rich. I appreciate you being here, Gogo, and I appreciate that good picture of you. Agreed, sketchy. Rich, your comment on the charity is 100% on the mark in my view. Look, I just want to be clear. Maybe I got it wrong. I don't think I did, but maybe I did. But I think that if that is really the case, that is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard. It is a way to take advantage of people, to line your pocket, and I don't like that at all. Why can't you create a new manifesto answering the questions on if you start again from the beginning, how would you do it? You know so much more now, so many lessons learned. Yeah, but you know, I guess, first of all, I think a lot of the messages of the manifesto have been embraced by the internet marketing world. So it would have to be totally different. And I think the mistakes that people make now are not the same. And I might write a free report again at some point. I could see writing one about like this shift to more modularized short form video content. But, you know, I love having written, but I don't really enjoy writing. The things I'm most proud of are, like, as far as work accomplishments, some of the things I've written. But I can tell you that it was grueling every time I've written one of those. They don't just pour out of me. So that might be one reason, Charlotte. But also, I'm not trying to coach many people right now. That's not my focus either. Shared. Thank you, Entrepreneur Hope. Wow, wow, wow. I don't know what you are saying wow about, Gogo, but thank you. Shared. Daryl, you're my hero. And Entrepreneur Hope, you're my hero. Thank you guys for sharing. It's not only Tony Robbins. All the personal development is phony as hell. I don't trust him. I don't know if that's true, Emmy. And look, I don't know that he's fake either. I mean, he might really like those people at that moment, and his brain is just wired that way. I plan to use a theme to my niche market. What do you think about creating multiple themes, branding for multiple target markets, same content presented differently? I like that idea, Jason. I just wouldn't start with it. I would do one thing, do it well, then seek to replicate it. If you replicate too soon, now you're just creating more of a like clusterfuck if you ever have to change the process, right? So I would do one, do it really well, then multiply. And if you do it that way, Jason, I think you'll be good. Wow, you wear your heart on your sleeve, Rich. I am so like you as respect works both ways with everyone. Oh, well, thank you, Joanne. It's all about real-time automation, assisted learning, success automation for me. This is the concept I've been trying to sketch out, and your infinity funnel scared me. Like Rich hasn't implemented my idea before me. Well, look, no idea is truly unique, and I agree that it's real-time automation, assisted learning. I think it's very much about first-party data and leveraging that first-party data to be more valuable to your customers, like every which way through the process. I'll just share one thought as it relates to our new model and one of the reasons why I love it so much. I wish I could tell you all the reasons, but I can't right now. One of the reasons why the credit system is so immensely useful for us as a company is that it really puts us, Gogo, on the same side as the consumer. Because when you have a credit and you use it for an episode of Steal Our Winners, right? If that episode you don't feel is going to get you the outcome that you thought it would when you selected it, all you're going to have to do is answer a few questions for us, automated, and you'll get your credit back, right? Because now it's very easy for us to give a credit back. It's much harder to give money back. And what that allows us to do then is allow our clients to make sure they get the one that they want that really is going to help them, but at the same time, understand that the ones that won't help them, we've learned something too. That's why you have to answer a few questions for us. You don't have to answer them right. There's no wrong or right answers, but we're trying to build a system that learns so that whether it's the 10th video or the 100th video, at some point in time, our system will know which video, which segment, which episode would most likely get you the best outcome in the shortest amount of time that you'll like the most. And that happens based on what you selected and liked, what you selected and didn't like, and then exchanged and then liked, right? And so first-party data. I talked about it at the MFA live event, the last one I spoke at, the last one that existed, right? And all about AI. And I really, it's not the number one concern for most of you, nor should it be. But if you have a successful business already and you're not an online business and you're not collecting the maximum amount of data that you can and make more money with it now so that it's not just an investment, it's actually adds more profit now, you are doing your business a disservice. Now, if you don't have a business yet, or you're just trying to get your business off the ground, I wouldn't worry about first party data. It's a whole nother distraction because it only matters if you're generating enough data. And if your business isn't there yet, then it's not generating any significant data. But in order for AI to work, it needs to have data. In order for your AI to work for your customers, you need to know who your customers are, identity, and you have to have data tied to that identity. What actions they've taken, what actions they haven't taken, etc. That's the only way that you can build like a system that can build a funnel on the fly, one step in front of every prospect based on the steps that they've taken in the past, and that's what we're building. I've been rich and I've been poor, and yet you always, my name is always Rich. On a more serious note, a mentor once told me the slower it takes you to get it, the longer you keep it. Yeah, I mean, that's most things in life, right? Hi, Rich. Hi, Kate. I'm in your strategic profits group. Yay. I just landed a role as CEO of a large online business. Congratulations, Kate. We spend $140,000 a month on Facebook marketing to feed the funnel. What is the advice you would give me to introduce myself to the tribe and build their trust? Okay. Kate, I really want to answer your question, but I do not know what you would mean as when you say the tribe. What is the business that this business provides, right? What is it a tribe of? A tribe of obviously customers or prospects, but since I don't know what the business is, it's hard for me to then know what the tribe is all about. And I assume you mean the tribe external to the business, not internal like the team. But Kate, I'll share this one definition of leadership that for me has meant a lot and has helped me like with certain decisions and like mapping out trajectories and stuff like that. The definition comes from Tracy Goss in her book, The Last Word on Power. Tracy Goss was a protege of Werner Erhard. I have pretty much read every single thing I could ever get my hands on that relates to Werner Erhard, including all the people that worked around him, Tracy Goss being one of them. And Tracy Goss had this definition of leadership about leadership is about making a future happen that wasn't going to happen anyway. And for some reason, I don't know if it's just me, I love that definition. A leader is someone who makes something happen that was not going to happen anyway. Because if it was going to happen anyway, a leader's not needed. It was going to happen. So the only purpose of a leader is to make something happen that was not going to happen. So Kate, as you take over this company and as you endeavor on a new journey with your tribe, what future are they currently heading towards? And what better future would they want to head towards? And then you as a leader, you help take them there. So where do they want to go? Where are they currently heading? And how do you get them to where they want to end up, not where they're currently heading? And if they're already heading to where they want to go, then there's not that much need for leadership there. And then it might be a different approach. The church rich for strategic profits will call it Elevated Lives Business Church. Tithing, of course, your thoughts. I'm not sure what you mean, Steve, but thank you. If I sniff a compliment there. I'd rather be a turtle than a hare. Money loves speed, haha. It does, but money comes and goes fast, right? Wealth generally sticks around. Kate, you should have your team look into YouTube ads as well, as the ROAS has been a lot better for most industries. Yep, totally true. I totally agree with Martin. It's something I've been preaching for quite a while. Some Japanese companies have a 100-year plan. Yeah, they used to. They don't anymore. That was in another world at another time when the future wasn't coming at us at the accelerated rate that it does. And trust me, I studied Japanese at Harvard, so I know a thing or two about the Japanese economy and the culture. I have a business there. If you ever look up strategicprofits.jp, that's our sister Japanese company. And it's not mine. It's our licensee, but, I get a nice piece every month. And Hero, if you happen to be seeing this, I just heard today from Jay that your daughter is not healthy. And it's first I'm hearing about it. My intention is after this live stream to reach out to you because it'll be now morning over there. I really hope everything's okay with your daughter, Hero. Hero is my Japanese partner. Do you think the online training and education could be heading for a bust, but only temporarily and then come back stronger? Well, I think there's going to be a shift, Brian, and I think it's going to shift away from courses into more micro content. And I think that, I don't know if that's immediately going to happen or if it's going to happen over time, but I really believe that that's going to happen. I believe it's already starting to happen. And, I'm pretty proud of my track record as far as like being able to predict what's coming, right? Like if you look at my track record, I've called most of the things I've called right. I don't, I'm not making predictions every week or month because I don't feel that strongly about that many things that often. But I'm telling you that I don't see how we don't end up with more micro content, more minimum publishing units. Like people just don't have the time. I'll tell you, Brian, that I'm thinking less about those things right now and more about our society in general, because I don't see how we ever snap back. I think this is the new normal. I don't see how we ever trust the media again. I don't see how like the two different sides ever come together. And that has me a lot more concerned about the world than anything else does. At least the United States. And I do think that like this COVID thing is a new like normal. I think there's going to be another variant, the Lambda, and then there'll be another variant, and then there'll be another variant. And I don't think that like, Florida is pretty much back to normal, but there's many places that aren't. But I think that's their new normal. I was just watching your presentation at MMF Live about shifting prospects' beliefs into what you want them to. I thought I answered this question. Okay. Still hurts to talk about it. I get that. Curious to know what your crystallization concept is. My crystallization concept is recognizing that your prospects has certain behaviors that they probably don't like about themselves. The highest form of love is to love the thing about the person that the person themselves hates about themselves. Right? So what I've done is I've taken the positive intent behind the bad behaviors that my prospect has and show them the positive intent is actually a characteristic of success, but when applied incorrectly, it turns out to be this bad thing. So, for example, right? Buying magic bean type solutions, push button solutions, the positive intent to that is keeping an open mind for where a solution might be found. Negative applied, it has you buying bullshit, right? But you want to look in every place to find your solution. You just don't want to buy those ones, right? Or staying up night after night, pulling all-nighters and all your time in front of your computer to try and master this stuff so you can make some money is taking responsibility for your education, for your own knowledge. I can take any bad problem and show you the positive intent to that. And then I can link that positive intent to the success that someone wants. So it's not that you don't have what it takes. It is you have what it takes. You're following the wrong method, though, to get what it is you want. That's like the 30,000-foot view of crystallization. Getting over to know emotions. I totally recommend listening to the podcast, The Life Coach School by Brooke Castillo. Try it out. You will not regret it. All right, I'll take a picture of it. But understand that, I had a lot of trauma as a kid. I was locked in a closet. There was a bunch of stuff, right? Like a lot of stuff. And so I think one of the reasons that I'm able to do a lot of things that a lot of people can't do as far as like stamina and endurance and like what it takes to knock me off my game and things like that is because part of it is that I'm disconnected from my body. And it's a very typical, common kind of way that people deal with trauma is to disassociate. So you pay a price for disassociation, but just like everything else, it's a strength and a weakness, just like ADHD is. So what allows me to do a 24-hour live stream, then like spend all day in a mastermind, do the 24-hour live stream, then go out at night afterwards and really stay up for 48 hours. I know a lot of people might think it's drugs, but it's not. It's the fact that I'm not as associated with my body, so I can kind of check out of tiredness because I'm not in my body most of the time anyway. And I know that might sound freaky to most people, but people who have been through trauma will understand what I'm saying. And so there's a part of me that wants to be more in touch with my body because I'd be happier and in certain ways, but I'd also be able not to do certain things as well as I can now. You know, there's in the Jewish religion, there's like this metaphor somewhere. You know, I went to yeshiva until 6th grade. But the metaphor is like, you know, it's called the problem tree. And would you be willing to take all your problems, put them on like, you know, a leaf or a piece of paper, and then go to that tree and pick someone else's at random? Right? Would you trade all of your problems for some random person's problems? And if you wouldn't, then what that really says is that you don't have anything to complain about. If you're not willing to trade your problems for the average person, unknown person's problems, then what you're saying is that you've got it better than most, and you're most likely going to be disappointed with that trade. I tell you that there's never been a time in my life where I'd be willing to take my problems and trade them for someone else's problems. And I've had problems. So thank you for the recommendation, Charlotte. But I'm apprehensive of getting too much in touch with my emotions. Do you think homeless people will ever have sex with each other? I don't know. I think they already do, my friend. Yep, the core concept is a single belief. Then Russell stole the idea and renamed it the Big Domino. Well, he told Divaldo he got the idea from me, and that's all that counts, right? Many of the things that I've kind of originated are out there in the world. It's one of the reasons why I feel like my life has had impact. And I don't look at these things as bad things. Like, you know, look, Russell might have taken the core concept from me, but there's certainly stuff that I have read, that I have watched, that I have learned that led me to coming up with that concept, like the big idea from Agora, like probably a bunch of other things too. So like my point is that I might have kind of like formalized the concept, but I certainly like was inspired by other things. I didn't copy someone exactly, that's for sure, but there are elements of like what I learned from Jay, elements of what I learned from Dan Kennedy, elements like all in this Chet Holmes core story, right? Like, so I'm not crazy about the idea. Sure, if I had to choose between someone taking my idea and giving me credit for it versus taking my idea, putting a different name on it and introducing it to the world, I'll choose the former over the latter every time. But don't think that I stay up at night worried about my ideas being taken and being put in other names. Like, you know, the chain of beliefs was a concept that, you know, Kendrick Cleveland and I developed together, and that's all over the place. And most people don't know that I developed it. Or the ladder, like the value ladder of the number of sales that you have to make, you know, an assistance sale, a sale of method, a sale of goal, a sale of identity. A lot of these things that I developed for myself because like it was helped me get clarity or help me like market better, like the core concept. And look, I have tremendous admiration for what Russell has accomplished. And I think it's wonderful. And I'm super proud that I made a difference for Russell earlier in his life. And I'm proud to call him a friend. And I'm proud of knowing someone and having helped someone who built, you know, $1 billion company. And I've got a few people like that. So I don't look at it the same way. And Russell has been good to me. I have no complaints. I'd like to have my ClickFunnels account for free. I don't think I really should be charged for that. Maybe I'll bring that up to Russell next time I talk to him. But other than that, yeah, I love Russell. And Russell is a sweetheart and one of the best guys to come up with an offer that exists. And I call his style of presenting naive enthusiasm. I've said that to his face, so I'm not telling you. Like that naive enthusiasm, like works so well. Oh, I don't know. I just tried this. I'm not saying that it will work for you, but like this, isn't this amazing, guys? Right? That's naive enthusiasm. I'm enjoying the language in pursuit of happiness. Good, Jason. I'm glad you are. And he really wrote a good book. Hello, Rich. Davey Paul here. I just lit myself a cigar as well. Davey Paul, I didn't even know you smoked cigars. I think it was Lewis that sent me those Padrones. And if it was Lewis, thank you. I got to look at the thank you card. How much do you charge for a 1-hour webinar? We have a big network of business managers around the world that would like to reach out to talk about it. What do you mean a 1-hour webinar? Are you talking about like for me to consult? I charge to consult. I charge $3,000 an hour for a full day. If you're willing to fly here, it's $15,000. And if you want me to fly to you, then it becomes very expensive, right? Because in general, unless I'm flying in and flying out that day, you're paying for my travel days too. And you're flying me first class and you're putting me up somewhere first class. And the reason for that is I just don't want to travel. So if you're going to make me travel, you're going to pay me handsomely. But a virtual thing like getting on, it's $3,000 for an hour. And it's generally more than an hour because I'm going to look over your materials. I'm going to have some ideas before I get on there. I'm probably going to want to talk to you 15 minutes before the hour. Am I going to spend days on it? No. But I generally don't need to help people. And the way I always start any consult is what needs to be true when we're done in order to make this the best investment of your life. And then that's what I work towards. Nice outfit, timeless. I live in the Gold Coast of Australia. Oh, wow. So that's where I bought it. Pretty funny. This setting is a whole new vibe, isn't it? Yeah. Noan, can you still develop the core concepts and change prospects' belief in small messages like a sales letter? You can, Noan, but the worst place to try and change beliefs is in a sales letter, right? Or in any kind of sales encounter. Like when someone's in a sales encounter, their guard is up. When someone is reading a sales letter, their bullshit detector is on. That's why you do marketing. You do marketing to create the beliefs so that when it's time to sell, you're pushing them in the direction of their beliefs. And that's the whole point, right? So the worst place to try and change a belief is in a sales letter. Can it be done? Yes. Has it been done effectively? Yes. But is it the easiest place to do it? No, not even close. I think we are conditioned to get ROI. That's why dollar returns are perceived more valuable than intrinsic returns of health and wellness and things that are priceless. I agree. And that's why it's always easier to sell money at a discount. My husband is watching this live and with me, and he went and picked a cigar too. I guess it's a cigar competition between all you guys. I wish he quit smoking this shit. I hear you. I mean, they don't smell that good. I agree with that statement. Jordan Peterson has a lot of smart things to say. Conflict avoided is conflict multiplied. Are moths and insects not attracted by lights in Florida? Well, they aren't when there's misting system, which is going off right now. You might even see it. I don't know if you can see, but there's a mist right now around me, like I'm getting wet. And it's from the spray from the mosquitoes. Thank God it's not toxic. But it goes off at 8. Or right, because it is 8:02. Wow, guys, you gave me lots of questions. Let's see. Can you still develop the core content change process? Yes, I said that. Instagram and TikTok both prefer you to use their own platforms. Repurpose TikTok videos with a watermark, get lower reach as reels. You've got to erase the watermark, even then it's only a slight boost. That's interesting to know, Dr. Vogelman. Thank you. But it's still the prime. Most of the stuff that I see on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts are from TikTok. The Huberman Lab is a great podcast. It is one of the best podcasts. And if you don't listen to it, you are depriving yourself of medical science that could actually make you perform better in many different areas of your life. I'm 50. I've never been in better shape in my life. I've never had more energy. I've never been more fit. I've never been stronger. And I'm 50, right? So, yeah, why wouldn't you want to be at your best? Rich, when you described your failures, your emotions came through. I could feel them, so you don't know how to convey emotion. I feel them, so you do know how to convey emotions. Thank you. Well, thank you, Amit. I try. Which cigars do you like to smoke? Well, my favorite cigar is a Padron 1964 Anniversary Natural, generally a torpedo, but I'll take any size. I don't smoke them every day because they're like a $20 cigar, and I don't want to have the habit. Well, I don't even smoke cigars every day anymore. I've just been too busy, really. But I don't like the idea of smoking expensive cigars because then that's all you become accustomed to, and then everything else doesn't taste as well. So generally, I will smoke like a Padron 1964 a couple of weeks, but not more than that. And generally, I'll smoke other cigars like Illusiones or Tatuajes. Generally, Nicaraguan cigars. I generally tend to like those the best. And what I don't think a lot of people realize, even people who smoke cigars, is how much better cigars become when they're aged. So my humidor is like the size of a fridge, and it's electric, right? And I will buy boxes of cigars, leave them in there, and a cheap cigar like a year later can taste phenomenal. But most places don't have the space to age the cigars that long, so you have to age them yourself. I've heard people advertise that entrepreneurs should be developing their own apps, no coding, to enhance their business. A trend? Well, let me ask you, how many apps do you use on your phone on a daily basis? And how many apps have you downloaded on your phone that you've never looked at? So, it's like all this other kind of stupid advice that it's not about the app. It's about what that app enables a user to do. And are you creating an app that someone would actually open up and use on a daily basis? And don't lie to yourself. There are like 10 apps out of about 1,000 that I've downloaded that I use on a daily basis for my phone. Like, what makes someone think that they're going to develop a crappy app and then somehow magically all their users are going to want to open it up daily and interact with it? It doesn't happen. Like, if you don't think that I'm busy sweating every way and every idea to get people back onto the platform or into an app when we ultimately develop it, then you are sadly mistaken. Like, it is difficult, right? It's really funny to me when somebody brand new comes to me and says, I'm really scared about people stealing my idea. It's like, are you serious? Have you ever tried to get someone to stop long enough to even listen to your idea? These are fears that are unfounded, right? So I think same with developing an app, it all makes sense until you realize that someone has to download that app and then use that app on a consistent basis. And what would make someone want to do that based on your own experience with your using apps yourself? It's like, I hate stuff that preys on stupid thinking. And I'm not calling you stupid, Celeste, but really, how many apps do each and every one of you use on a consistent basis? And how many of them have been developed by some small business that you're using frequently? I can tell you there are 0 apps on my phone that are like that. There are apps on my phone that I would like to use more often, like Readwise, that I seem to consistently not make the time for. So that's where, Celeste, I have a problem with it. Yeah, they talk about how the app store is bigger than Hollywood, as far as the amount of money. But most of that money is going, unless you have a good reason to have an app, I don't know why you would have an app. We created an app a long time ago, but I knew Rich on Air, right? And it was just some of my dispatches and stuff like that. And it was cool, but I knew that most people wouldn't be opening it up with any frequent basis, which was why we didn't really invest a lot in it. We were just playing around. Hope that helps, Celeste. Andrew Stanford profile. Oh, that's cool. Is it a good profile? Because obviously I can't look at it right now, Dr. Vogelman. Hey, Rich, great thoughts on creating legacy. I've reflected a lot more about that since having my first child. If you were to do your 24-hour live stream again, would you do anything differently knowing what you know now? Well, I've done 2 24-hour live streams. And if I do another one, I want to do a 48-hour live stream. I wanted to do a 50-hour live stream this past March, because it was my 50th birthday. And I thought that would be so cool. And we have over 100 contributors, so it would be easy to do. I like to do stunts. And I think it's I look at compare myself to Frank Kern. I don't have the same charisma that Frank has. I'm not as comfortable on camera as Frank is. But whereas he has his charisma, I have my willingness to do things that other people can't do, that other people, whatever, right? So I would do it, but I would do it longer and I would do it better. I love Andrew Huberman and Dr. BJ Fogg. Yep. Like BJ Fogg too. I've met BJ a couple of times. He and I just did not resonate. His writings are very good. Yeah. I sent him an email a long time ago. He never responded. YouTube Shorts have a far more primitive creation interface than Instagram Reels and TikToks. I'm playing with all of them right now, testing how much traction I can get with each. Gotcha. Yeah, I meant sooner. Okay. Human Condition, World Transformation Movement. The book I recommend for you to read is Freedom. Check it out, brother. I will. All right, guys. Large Yep, I agree, Dr. Vogelman. The squirrels come to your backyard because it's the whole squirrel ADD thing. Have you read Wayne Dyer's books? If so, what do you think about them? Well, Wayne went through a whole progression, right? Like, so I loved Erroneous Zones. I loved Wisdom of the Ages. I loved a lot of his books. In fact, I met with Wayne back when I had the hypnosis centers because I wanted to turn Erroneous Zones into a hypnosis program where we help people actually develop those as habits. I also spoke to Ken Blanchard about turning the 1 Minute Manager into a hypnosis program. He was all for it. He was very into it. When I spoke to Dyer, he was not. And he said, I'm so past that now, man. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, that was an old Wayne Dyer. I don't want to resurface that. I'm much more into the metaphysical now. And I respect that. But the books of his that I loved the most were the psychology books. Not that I like his spiritual stuff too. He's dead now. But all right. I'm just like circling through your comments now just to make sure that if there is anything in here, how can you sell for us? I don't know if you're a salesperson or if you mean by affiliate, but there will be opportunities coming in December, both. What about a la carte, chop up the course content, the audio summaries, cheat sheets, or even roll out the course in email sequence or newsletter? The customer chooses their content type. Well, you want that, but then you need to make it work for you other than just giving people cheaper ways to interact with you, right? Like the way we're doing it, Jason. Chris, just have to say, I love all your contributions to the stream. So do I, Dr. Vogelman. I have relatives who experience dissociative episodes. It requires a lot of empathy and patience to communicate with them. Yeah, I don't have it to that extent, but I'm not in here sometimes. I'm over here. Like, almost like a stranger in my own life, if that makes sense. In my experience, a deep lifestyle of spiritual fasting also creates a kind of disassociation with the body over time, a sort of temporary and learned disassociation. Well, I've fasted many times for the longest one, I think. I don't remember if it was 5 days or 7 days now. Done it many times, though. Well, cool, Nathan. Yeah, then contact customers support. Talk to them. See if you can talk to Matt. I should have a free ClickFunnels account, right? I hear ClickFunnels is trying to be like Groove. I think they're both separate things. I think they're both good for what they are. They're both friends of mine. They're both competitors of each other. You're welcome, Martin. Cool. Yeah, listen to that podcast. Great. I do give online interviews, and if you want to set up an interview, also reach out to Michelle at Strategic Profits. Yes, you will. I also become better when aged. Hi, baby. Where are you? Are you here yet? You might be. Happy days are not here again. That is funny, Dr. Vogelman. The only app similar to one you mentioned is my Katrina Ruth app, the cat app. Yeah, I mean, if you log in, so there you go, right? And Katrina has a big following. She's very passionate. Like, there's like, if you're a fan of Katrina, I could see you like, but that's what I mean. Like, I just don't think like having an app for app's sakes is like, get rich and stay rich app. No, the guys, I already have the title, and it will be a podcast, and it will be a special one when it's The Secrets of Being Rich. And I have the domains, Secret of Being Rich and Secrets of Being Rich. You know, I think that double play on words is really Secrets of Being Rich. Because I'm weird and I'm rich and my name is Rich, right? When people steal ideas and make it their own, is it a compliment to the original thinker? It is not just modeling, and is any information or knowledge really original, or is it just coming through us and combined with our unique experience and skills and perspectives, we create new versions of the same thing? Yeah, that's what I mean. You know, it's like, so my store in the US, when I had my clothing store, was the first store to bring Diesel into the United States. And so anytime I see something of Diesel's, like, I just feel like, you know, I was a part of seeing that happen, right? My general manager became the president of retailing for Diesel. I think we were the first store in the US to have DJs spinning records in the store, like as live, you know, music. Anytime I go into a store, you know, Diesel had it too after us, right? And many other stores now have it. Like, I feel like I contributed to that. When I look at the free model online, recognizing that I pushed the envelope, not that I'm responsible for it, but I was one of many that kind of pushed it forward a little bit. It makes me realize, like, I did stuff. It impacted things. It's like, so when I see things like the free model today, I know I was a part of it. I don't think I've really created very much, but I certainly contributed to a lot of different things. And even the automated webinar, I didn't invent webinars. I didn't invent automated teleseminars. Those existed. Webinars existed. It was going to happen anyway. And I didn't create the tech. My tech guy did. So, like, you know, what am I really claiming credit for? Yeah, I just don't think that at the end of the day, it's really worthwhile to get all twisted up about that. In fact, like, look at Steal Our Winners. Like, why would an expert be willing to share a secret winning strategy? Because that winning strategy is going to get out anyway. And you might as well get the credit for being the person that introduced it. One of the reasons why I'm able to, one, talk about like the VSL to Agora is because I have the letter from Bill that proves it. There are other gurus, I won't name them, who have claimed that they brought the VSL to Agora. And if you ever see this, you know who you are. I know who you are too. If I hadn't published the report teaching automated webinars in 2007, I'm sure there would be a lot of people telling me I'm wrong about that, right? So, my point is that, like, I just want to know that I made a difference in this world, and I feel like I have, and I want to keep doing it. And when someone takes one of my ideas, it just makes that more likely to happen. It means like more people will be impacted by something that at least kind of something about it started here or was related to this. Because I'm weird and I'm rich and my name is Rich. That makes so much sense. Well, thank you, Gogo. Wait, Diesel Jeans? Damn, you really have been everywhere. Yeah, my store, Renzo was, and I guess he still is, the owner of Diesel, Renzo Russo. We were Renzo's favorite store that ever existed. And so if you worked for Diesel and you had to come to the US, you had to stop in New York and come to my store. And that's why he hired my general manager as president of retailing. He hired one of my visual people as head of visuals worldwide, et cetera. Yeah. Hey, Rich, I was wondering, I was watching your old reading videos and I was wondering, do you still consume crazy amounts of information as before? Yes, I do. What's changed? Nothing much, except now I just have more ways of doing it. And I've done tons of these live streams on that. So that is, I guess, going to make it a 2 hour and 15-minute live stream. I think if I jumped in the pool right now, you wouldn't even see it. I am, let's see. Thanks, Rich. You've made an impact and a difference. Doing these lives are very generous. Well, thank you, David. And attending them and commenting is all I can ever ask. And I appreciate each and every one of you for doing so. I'm willing to jump in the pool, but I'm going to go behind, take my shirt off. Take my shirt off because I really don't want to get my clothes all wet. But I will, and then I'll say goodbye. So let's do that. Right. All right. So I will. Maybe you'll see the splash. It also gives me an excuse to take my shirt off, and I've been working out really hard, if I'm going to be honest, and so why not? Oh. All right. So let's see. I am going to fall backwards into the pool, but this time not with my clothes on like last time, primarily because these are nicer clothes. But same effect. Thank God I have underwear on. Ugh. Damn Australian pants. There we go. Oh, God. All right. They're like boxers. All right. Oh. That was the worst back flat I've ever done. Anyway, guys, have a great night. Thanks for being here. And I'll see everyone on Tuesday, although it will be pre-recorded on Saturday. The Higher Profits Beyond, Rich out.